Hi friends, I am Uday Kandpal and I welcome you all to yet another lecture on NCERT Class 8 History Chapter 8 with Fact Elaboration by Uday Kandpal. The name of the chapter is Civilizing the Native Educating the Nation. So let's start. So we'll first talk about Orientalism. In art, history, literature, and cultural studies, Orientalism is the imitation of this or depiction of the aspects of the Eastern world. These depictions are usually done by writers, designers, and artists from the West. Since the publication of Edward Said's Orientalism in 1978, much academic discourse had begun to use the term Orientalism to refer to a general patronizing Western attitude towards Middle Eastern, Asian and North African societies. In Said's analysis, the Western essentializes these societies as static and undeveloped, thereby fabricating a view of Oriental culture that can be studied and depicted and reproduced in the service of imperial power. Implicit in the fabrication side said is the idea that the Western societies is developed, rational, inflexible, and superior. In the art history, the term Orientalism refers to the works of the Western artists who specialize in the Oriental subjects produced from their travels in the Western Asia during the 19th century. In that time, the artists and scholars were described as Orientalists, especially in France, where the dismissive use of the term Orientalist was made popular by the art critic Jules Antoine Castagneri. Despite such social ordain of a style of representational art, the French Society of Orientalism Painters was founded in the 1893 with Jean-Léon Gérôme as the honorary president, whereas in Britain the term Orientalist identified as an artist. In the 18th and the 19th century, the term Orientalist identified a scholar who specialized in the languages and literatures of the Eastern world. Among such scholars were the officials of the East India Companies who said that the Arab culture and the Indian culture and the Islamic culture should be studied as equal as the cultures of Europe. So the tradition of Orientalism. In 1783, the person named William Jones arrived in Calcutta. He had an appointment as an initial judge at the Supreme Court that the company had set up. In addition to being an expert in law, Jones was a linguist. He had studied Greek and Latin at Oxford, knew French and English, had picked up Arabic from an old friend, and also learned Persian. Jones discovered that his interests are also shared by many British officials living in Calcutta at the time. Englishmen like Henry Thomas Colebrook and Nathaniel Halhed were also discovering the ancient Indian heritage, mastering Indian languages and transforming Sanskrit and Persian works into English. Together with them, Jones set up the Asiatic Society of Bengal and started a journal called Asiatic Researchers. Jones and Colebrook came to represent a particular attitude towards India. They shared a deep respect for ancient cultures, both of India and the West. Indian civilization, they felt, had attained its glory in the ancient past, but had subsequently declined. In order to understand India, it was necessary to discover the sacred and the legal texts that were produced in the ancient period. For only those texts would reveal the real ideas and the laws of Hindus and Muslims, and only a new study of these texts would form the basis of future developments in India. So the Jones and Colebrook went about discovering ancient texts, understanding the meaning and translating them and making their findings known to others. This project, they believed, would not only help the British learn from Indian culture, but it would also help the Indians rediscover their own heritage and understand the lost glories of their past. In this process, the British would become the guardians of the Indian culture as well as the masters influenced by such ideas. Many company officially argued that the British ought to promote India rather than the Western learning. They felt that the institution should be set up to encourage the study of ancient Indian texts and teach Sanskrit and Persian literature and poetry. The officials also thought up to the Hindus and the Muslims ought to be taught that they were already familiar with and they are valued and treasured, not subjects that were alien to them. Only then they believed such British hoped to win a place in the hearts of the natives. Only then could the alien rulers expect to be respected by the subjects. Grave errors of the East. From the early 19th century, many British officials began to criticize the Oriental version of learning. They said that the language knowledge of the East are full of errors and unscientific thought. Eastern literature was not serious and light-hearted. So they argued that it was wrong on the part of the British to spend their much effort in encouraging the study of Arabic and Sanskrit languages and literature. James Mill was one of those who attacked the Orientalists. The British effort, he declared, should not be to teach what the natives wanted or what they respected. In order to please them and win a place in their heart, the aim of the education ought to be teach what was useful and practical. So Indians should be made familiar with the scientific and technical advances that the West had made rather than the poetry and sacred literature of the Orient. By the 1830s, the attack of the Orientalists became sharper. One of the most outspoken and influential of such critics was the time Thomas Babington Macaulay. T.B. Macaulay. He saw India as an uncivilized country that needed to be civilized. With a great energy and passion, Macaulay emphasized the need to teach English language. Teaching of the English would thus be a way of civilizing people, changing their taste, values, and cultures. Following the Macaulay's Minute, the English Education Act of 1835 was introduced. The decision was to make English the medium of instructions for higher education and stop promotion of the Oriental institutions like Calcutta, Madrasa, and Benares Sanskrit College. These institutions were seen as the temples of darkness that were falling of themselves into decay. English textbooks now began to be produced for schools. Education for Commerce. In 1854, the Court of Directors of the East India Company in London sent an educational dispatch to the Governor General in India. Issued by Charles Wood, the President of the Board of Control of the company, it had came to be known as the Wood's Dispatch, outlining the educational policy that had to be followed in India. It emphasized once again the practical benefits of the system of education, European learning as opposed to the Oriental language. One of the practical uses the dispatch pointed to was economic. European learning, it said, would enable the Indians to recognize the advantages that flow from the expansion of trade and commerce and make them see the importance of developing resources of the country. Introducing them to the European ways of life would change the taste and desires and create a demand for British goods. For Indians would begin to appreciate and buy things that were produced in Europe. Wood's dispatch also argued that European learning would improve the moral character of Indians. It would make them truthful and honest and thus supply the company with civil servants who be trusted and depended upon. The literature of the East was not only full of grave errors, it could also instill in people a sense of duty and the commitment to work, nor could it develop the skills required for administration. Following the 1854 dispatch, several measures were introduced by the British. Educational apartments of the governments were set up to extend the control over all the matters regarding the education. Steps were taken to establish a system of university education. In 1857, while the sepoys rose in the revolt of Meerut and Delhi, universities were being established in Calcutta and Madras and Bombay. Attempts were also made to bring about the changes within the system of school education. The report of William Adam. Adam found that over 1 lakh pathshalas in Bengal and Bihar. These were small institutions with no more than 20 students each, but the total number of children being taught in these pathshalas were also considerable, over 20 lakh. These institutions were set up by wealthy people or the local community. At the times, they were started by a teacher guru. The system of education was flexible. Few things that you associate with the schools today are present in the pathshalas. At the time, there were no fixed fee, no printed books, no separate school building, no benches in chairs, no blackboards, no system of separate classes, no roll call registers, no annual examinations, and no regular timetable. In some places, classes were held in a banyan tree, in the other places in the corner of a village shop or a temple or at Guru's home. New routine, new rules. After the 1854 company decided to improve the system of vernacular education, it felt that this could be done by introducing the order with which the system imposing routines, establishing rules, ensuring regular inspections. What measures did the company undertake? It appointed a number of government pundits, each in the charge of looking after 4 to 5 schools. The task of the pandit was to visit the pathshalas and try to improve the standard of teaching. Each guru was asked to submit the periodic reports and take classes according to the regular timetable. Teaching was now to be based on the textbooks and learning was to be tested with a system of annual examinations. Students were asked to pay a regular fee, attend regular classes, sit on the fixed seats, and obey the new rules of the discipline. Pathshalas which accepted new rules were supported through the government grants. Those who were unwilling to work with the new system received no government support. Over the time, gurus wanted to retain their independence, found it difficult to compete with the government aided and regulated pathshalas. The new rules and routines had another consequence. In the earlier system, children from the poor peasant families had able to go to the pathshalas. Since the timetable was flexible, the discipline of the new system demanded regular attendance even during the harvest time, where the children of poor families had to work in the fields. The ability to attend school came to be seen as an indiscipline or as an evidence of the lack of desire to learn. The agenda for national education. British officials were not only people thinking about education in India. From the early 19th century, many thinkers from the different parts of the India began to talk of the need of the wider spread of education. Impressed with the developments in the Europe, some Indians felt the Western education should help modernize India. They urged the British to open the more schools, colleges, and universities and spend more money on education. There were other Indians, however, who reacted against the Western education. Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore were two such individuals. English education had enslaved us. Mahatma Gandhi strongly felt that Indian languages ought to be the medium of teaching. Education in the English crippled Indians, distanced from their own surroundings, and made them strangers in their own land. Speaking a foreign language, despising the local culture, and the English educated did not know how to relate to the masses. Western education, Mahatma Gandhi said, focused on reading and writing rather than the oral knowledge. It valued textbooks rather than lived experience experience and practical knowledge. As nationalist sentiment spread, other thinkers also began thinking of a system of national education which should be radically different from that set up by the British. Tagore was of the view that creating learning and would be encouraged only within a natural environment, so they set up his school 100 kilometers away from Calcutta. In the rural setting, he saw it as an abode of peace, Shantiniketan, where living in harmony with nature, children could cultivate their natural creativity. In many sense, the Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi thought about education in similar ways. There were, however, differences too. Gandhi was highly critical of the Western civilization and its worship of machines and technology. Tagore wanted to combine elements of modern Western civilization and what he saw the best within the Indian tradition. He emphasized the need to teach science and technology at Shantiniketan along with the art, music, and dance. So thank you for watching my lecture. Hope you learned a lot for your competitive exam. Have a nice day. Bye bye.